If a company is going to change, they have got to be convinced that there's something in it for them to make that change. And the business case for sustainability needs to be crafted in a way that it's compelling enough to get their attention, but not so powerful enough that it's not credible. And the real challenge that I have found as I've gotten into this is being able to show them what the potential improvements are from a profit point of view, for example, that get their attention, but not so powerfully that they disconnect. A lot of what I do is simply trying to help people find that balance point and to tailor the business case so that it's relevant to the company that they're working with or working in. It's fine to talk about what other companies have done, but the real rubber meets the road when you talk about what this company can take advantage of if it's smart about the way it implements sustainability strategies. Some of you may have seen this slide before, but I think it's a very good way of positioning the readiness of executives to be approached on this topic these days. They're a little overwhelmed by these piles of priorities on either side of their desk that are driving them nuts. So those of us that really care about sustainability, we need to be a little careful that if we kind of approach the door and say, knock, knock, would you like some sustainability today? This is going to be a tough sell. They're a little bit preoccupied with just trying to keep the ship afloat, and this doesn't look like it's going to be really helpful. It's just one more darn thing to worry about. So I strongly encourage us, if we're really trying to get the attention of busy executives, don't do that. And instead of positioning it as another priority, another goal, instead, I think it'll be much more effective if we position it as a set of enabling strategies, which are going to help them achieve these other things which they are being measured on and driven by sooner and better than they would otherwise be able to. Position these things as strategies to get companies to stage 4, and once they get to stage 4, they'll have the courage to consider going to stage 5, but I don't think we'll be able to get most for-profit companies from stage 3 to stage 5 without going through stage 4. And I think we have to honor the fact that we've got to make sure that what we're talking about is relevant to their existing priorities, which are those things, and are going to be helpful in them meeting those priorities. Meet them where they are, help them be better at what they care about. So that's essentially the mindset, the strategy that I'm bringing to the business case. I want to help the good guys, the people who are really embracing this, do better on all of these things, including this little thing called profit. So as we have conversations with busy executives, very often you get the question, well, are you really sure you can make more money or we can make more money if we pay attention to this in a different way? And the answer, happily, is yes, much more strongly than it was 10 years ago. So the second question is, oh yeah? How much profit are we going to make? So as people that care about this, our credibility is at stake if we can't start to hang some numbers around this. And that's what I'm going to help you do and give you a quick summary of what the latest version of the business case looks like. So let's start off with the fact that there are much better examples than there were 10 years ago that I can draw on. In fact, that's why I recalibrated the whole business case and rewrote. It's a 95% rewrite. The whole book is new. And essentially what I did was took a look at the 7 benefits I had before, re-swizzled them a little bit, so it's still pretty much the same list. But I also dove down into each of them a little bit more than I did before and came up with strategies that are going to help you get the benefit in each of those areas. So in the case of revenue, there are 3 strategies you can tap into to be able to increase the amount of revenue the company is making, top line. In the case of energy, there are 10 different ways that you can capture more of the savings than you did before. Reduce waste and materials. You can also, there are strategies for doing that. Increase productivity, which is the magic of all of this. That's the secret sauce for getting all of the other benefits. There are 6 different ways that you can use smart sustainability strategies to increase the engagement, productivity, innovation of your employees, reduce turnover, and the last one I spent a lot more time on than I did before. Some of you may recall in the first book I had a risk category. It only had a couple of risks, and it wasn't as rigorously quantified as I felt I needed to. Risk is a huge, huge motivator. That is to say, avoiding risk is a huge motivator. So there are now 14 different factors that we can take a look at to help companies understand how they can avoid some risks and how big those risks could be if they don't avoid them. So those are the list of the benefits. To make it relevant to business people, I organized them around the income statement or the profit and loss statement. So it's a pretty straightforward kind of calculation. 6 of the benefits are on the opportunity side of the equation. So the revenue, of course, is against the revenue. The expenses has a whole number of items. This is the low-hanging fruit that we talked about before, the people productivity and reduced turnover, and the risks are on the other side of the equation. So I've arrayed them around the income statement. Okay so far? So take the benefits, organize them in a framework that's familiar to executives. And now comes the fun part, which is you say, you know, if you were to adopt what other companies are already doing, no new technology, just take best practices and do them, you could improve all of these areas significantly. And in fact, in the next 3 to 5 years, you could improve them by this amount. Revenue could go up by at least 9%. From whatever you were making today, you can get another 9% beyond that in the next 3 to 5 years by using smart sustainability strategies. You can reduce whatever you're spending on energy, that's electricity and fuel, by at least 75% in the next 3 to 5 years, simply doing what other companies are already doing. Waste and materials, same kind of thing. Increased productivity, this is the most painful one. I factored this down a lot. So what I'm going to show here is that you can increase your productivity by at least 2%, and you can reduce your turnover or your attrition by at least 25%. And all of those flow benefits straight through to the bottom line. And in fact, if you take a look at all of those, you can increase your profit by 51 to 81% over what it is today in the next 3 to 5 years by simply doing what other companies are already doing. It's not rocket science. It's well documented. It's easy to do. But let me just comment on the size of that. That may seem like a big number. By the way, just to make sure you understand that, if the profit that you're making today is around 10%, let's say, on your revenue, then in the next 3 to 5 years, your profit could be 15 to 18%. You with me on how to read that? Okay, so here's my biggest problem. It's so ironic. My biggest problem as I did these calculations was keeping that number under 100%. Go figure. Now, why would I want to do that? Because if it's over 100%, nobody would believe it. So I made sure that it came out under 100%. There's lots of upward opportunity here. But I just want you to understand that my biggest challenge was not getting big numbers. It was taking big numbers and making them smaller. On the risk side, let's suppose a company said, yeah, okay, I understand all this stuff, but not right now. Thank you. We're just kind of a little preoccupied with this other stuff. I think it behooves us as sustainability champions to help them understand that actually not doing anything could jeopardize some of their profit, especially if their competitors decide to do something. So if they're not careful, their revenue could be eroded, these kinds of expenses could go up, and their profit could be impacted negatively by another 16 to 36%. And by the way, it was so hard to get that down to 51 to 81% that I actually creamed off half of the savings from waste and half of the savings from materials and put them into a rotating pool of capital to help fund additional projects that would bring in additional benefits. So that's the overall business case in a nutshell. And I'm sure you're asking yourself a couple of questions. First of all, where's this 51 to 81% coming from? Well, I used 2 kinds of companies to run the numbers. Ran the numbers for a small company, small professional services company with 6 people, a large manufacturing / distribution kind of company with 3,750 employees, plugged in this kind of financial profile for each of them and just ran the numbers as to what might be possible. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide, that's where the range comes from for those 2 sample companies. The chance of the company that you are in being like one of those is pretty slim. So the question you're going to have on your mind is, okay, so it's okay for those two sample companies you made up, but what about our company? And that's where it's really important that we have tools. So if an organization would like to plug their numbers into the simulator and see what happens, there's a dashboard that's now available, open source, free, on the website. And all you have to do is go to that website, plug in the numbers, those 7 different financial pieces of data for your company, plug in those numbers. You can use one of the sample companies because there are actually 4 sample companies built into the simulator as well, so you could use one of them. But if you chose not to, you can plug in your own, and then you go to step 2, and this is the jazzy part.
Step 2 provides an opportunity to tune the percentage improvement possibilities for each of the 7 benefits. The starting values in the percent change column are the very conservative potential improvement possibilities in each benefit area. They're based on research of what real companies have achieved with smart, aggressive sustainability strategies within 3 to 5 years. To tune these potential improvement percentages to your situation, click on the benefit that you want to change and move the sliders to the desired percentage improvement value. For example, click on Revenue to reveal the 3 revenue streams that can be tapped into using sustainability-related strategies. As you can see, the research shows that a typical company can make at least 5% more revenue by being a more attractive brand to its customers. Plus, it can make at least 2% more revenue by creating new green product lines, and it can make an additional 2% more revenue by opening up new services and leasing revenue streams. Starting with the first line, the simulator assumes that improving your brand as a responsible company can lead to 5% more revenue in the next 3 to 5 years. But let's suppose that you think that that's a low estimate and that a 10% improvement is possible for this revenue stream. Similarly, if you think the company can make 5% more revenue from new green product lines in the next 3 to 5 years, move the slider from 2 to 5%. Finally, if you don't think there is any opportunity for more revenue through offering new services or leasing products instead of selling them, move the slider from 2% to 0%. The beauty of the simulator is that you can immediately see the ripple effect of your new assumptions in real time. First, the numerical value of the slider position is shown beside it and changes as the slider is moved, and the total percentage improvement for that benefit category is reflected on its heading line. At the same time, the annual benefit and profit increase values for that benefit change in the totals table on the right. The potential profit improvement percentage and dollar value are updated in the dark blue line at the bottom of the totals table. Finally, the bar chart at the top changes dynamically to show the proportional contribution to the overall profit improvement from each color-coded benefit, and the odometer dynamically rolls to reflect the potential profit improvement in overall profit. Just as we did for revenue, the starting improvement assumptions for any of the benefits can be changed by clicking on the benefit and moving its revealed sliders. When you're finished making changes to a benefit, it can be closed by clicking on it again. This helps to keep the bar chart, odometers, and totals table in your browser window so that you can see how they change in real time. As you probably realize by now, the totals in the Step 3 table are look but don't touch numbers. They're driven by the data values that you enter in Step 1 and the slider positions you choose in Step 2. So there you have it.
So this thing is addictive. This is actually quite fun to play with. It's really, really slick. But it also starts to raise some questions about what the heck are the calculation assumptions going on in the background? Like, can I change some of those calculations? Can I adjust the wording of these things? So as you play with this, you may find that you'd like to get into it a little bit more. And that's where the worksheets come in, Excel worksheets. So there's a version of this simulator also in Excel that you can play with, where you can take one of the 4 sample companies or plug in your own data, select that one, and then there are a number of individual worksheets that allow you to play with the individual assumptions and all of the examples that are used in the spreadsheets, and tune this so that it's appropriate to your particular organization, and the totals will change correspondingly, of course, as you change all of that. And there's a bar chart which changes all the way through as well. So there are a couple of tools here that may be useful as you try to tailor it to a particular company. And let me make this really, really clear. These are open source, and they're free, and they're downloadable. I mean, if you want to take these and create your own set of branded for sale worksheets, you can do that. I'd love you to do that. This is a starter set. This is a starter set. So what we really have to be able to do is to tailor this so it's relevant to the people that we're trying to engage in this, and use this as a catalyst to a conversation. So just to reinforce that, I should acknowledge that Stantec has done some amazing stuff with this already, where they've taken the calculations, especially on the total sheet, and they've gone into some more sophisticated return on investment kinds of calculations. They're integrating this into some of their consulting methodology, and they've got some other ideas that may apply to the project level as opposed to company level area as well. So I encourage all of you to consider doing that and make these your own in a way that's really useful to what you're trying to do, and especially what your clients are trying to do. So there's a dashboard version, there's a Excel version. For those of you that may have to do a presentation on this at some point, you may want some slides. Of course, you'll have access to all of the ones I'm using here tonight, but you may want a lot of the backup slides. So frankly, there is a PowerPoint version of the book that you can tap into. There's a master set of slides. As some of you know, there's a 700 slide master set that's available to any subscriber that wants to access them. And 580 of those 700 slides have to do with the business case. So all of the backup behind all of this, all of the examples, all of the figures that are in the book, and a lot more are also available to you in PowerPoint format so that you can hopefully convey it to some folks in a way that's more comfortable for them. Some people get kind of seized up on Excel, but PowerPoint might be more appropriate. So I guess what I've tried to do here is give you a sense that there's been a lot going on in the business community. Part of it has to do with some of the kinds of articles that Harvard Business Review is putting out, new language that's starting to creep into the discussion around this, new positioning of it, a new sense of urgency around it. So the readiness factor is wonderfully high. It's great. I think companies are getting, sometimes kicking and screaming, but they're getting ready to do more than they did before on sustainability, which is really exciting. And the good news is that we don't have to be at all shy about being able to help them understand that this will be good for the business. So we've got a much better articulation of the business case, and we've got better tools that can help us communicate that in a way that's relevant to folks. So it's exciting. I think we're at a great time. I'd like to be able to move a little faster than we already are, but I'm excited about the traction that's already happening, and I think we're well positioned to be able to capitalize on this. So thank you.
So sometimes people ask me, do I consult? What do I do? And I'm kind of a Johnny Appleseed in this journey. I do a lot of talks. I plant seeds. I plant ideas in the ears, hopefully, of people who can influence their organizations or each other. Essentially, what I'm trying to do is to help the good guys get better. There are organizations out there that are doing some amazing things. There are others who could care less. We don't have time to waste our time with the ones who could care less. We need to help the good guys get better so that they can get the critical mass that we need of organizations who are embracing sustainability strategies and make the necessary changes in their organizations, in society, and the world.